Good morning, YouTube. I hope you are well. I'm going live over on Facebook, and I am a touch late because it is a sensitive day for me. I will say my grandma passed a year ago today. Salute, Grandma. She is now watching down on me and all the rest of us. She is one of the angels of our times. I loved that woman. She is truly who helped me become who I am, and I am so grateful. And it's an emotional morning. And I watched a video that I had done a year ago, and that was raw. This morning I watched the video I did the morning that she passed, or that we found out that she had, and found out because we weren't allowed to go and see her. It's the insanity of all of this madness. But I want to play a song, and so we're going to be a little late going on, because what I want to share with you is a song called Bend Not Break that I am absolutely in love with, by Alex Bouyer. And so we're going to just get that going. And it's 4.5 minutes, and then we'll get to the service. So 10:10, amen. We'll just begin. That's part of the song.
Before you go, can I ask you a question? When's the last time you thought life's worth living? You may think there's only one way out. Can't see beyond the way you feel right now. But if you just bend and not break, if you just bend and not break, oh, at least not dead. Ooh. Now I know that this permanence is tempting. That even on a good day, life feels empty. But someone's gonna miss you when you're gone. There's so much more to do if you hold on. If you just and not pray, say you just and not pray. Please not today, not today, not today. Oh, please not today, not today, not today. We are not the things we have done, but the things we have overcome. Just take it one day at a time, because your work here is definitely not done. You don't. If you go, then I pray. You just and I pray.
Wow, I love that song. So, that is a song by Alex Bouyer, and it is a song supporting suicide prevention. And we all know how much of an issue that is right now with the madness and insanity that is currently in place with what is going on culturally. And culture is the cult you rally with. It's what you believe, the shared BS of your tribe. And truly, we all need to just take a few together. And instead of covering up that which we would prefer to be hidden within our own selves, it is time for us to embrace the truth of who and whose we are, regardless of what box you put God into. We will do a card pull at the end, but if you missed Alex Bouyer's song Bend Not Break, it's definitely worth the replay. And so I am emotional this morning because of the passing of a woman that helped me become who I am last year. My grandma passed this day a year ago, which ironically was Easter weekend then. And this Easter, Michael Seegers and I did a summit about Jesus and the ascension process. And in front of me, I have the masters and their retreats that we can go to as an encyclopedia reference. And I flipped to the page on traveling to the retreats, and the retreats of the Elohim in the body of the earth and the focuses of the flame therein are like the 7 major chakras in the body of man. They are the key focuses for the 7 rays upon the planetary body. Unascended life streams are seldom taken into the retreats of the Elohim, for these are kept as pure, vibrating electrodes to infuse the body of Virgo and Pelur with life, and to attune it with cosmos. But we can call for the release of the concentrated momentum of the 7 rays focused by the Elohim to be released into the planetary body at large through the elemental kingdom and through the 7 chakras in man, as well as through the flame of the 7 Elohim that is a focus in the forehead of every life stream, the pineal gland, the third eye, our intuition, our insight, the ability to see and to break down intuition, to be the teacher our soul hired ahead of time to guide us through this life, the voice of knowing that sometimes whispers and sometimes shouts. When visualizing this focus, think of the flame in the retreat of Cyclopea and Virginia, the triangle with the all-seeing eye in the center. Visualize a triangle with an all-seeing eye in the center of the forehead. See the green precipitation flame blazing through the triangle, and the eye and the radiance of the 7 rays swirling around it. The green flame rises in the center, and the 7 rays come out from the forehead at the angle of a shield on a cap in all directions. Since the Elohim have a cosmic consciousness and a cosmic service throughout the galaxies of the cosmos and on beyond the great central sun, they appoint representatives to be the hierarchs, the administrators of their retreats. The retreats of the Elohim are like touchstones, where they place their feet now and then, and where they anchor their consciousness are as they are in and out of cosmic service. The Elohim can place an electronic presence of their being in the retreats, a replica of themselves, the full blazing reality of their God consciousness focused there. And just as God himself can be everywhere in cosmos all at once, so they too can be everywhere in the consciousness of God. Heaven is definitely coalesced and intermeshed with the planet Earth. The only problem that mankind really have is tuning in to the light that is already here in these retreats. There is that lie of separation between spirit and matter, and the only way it can be bridged is through invocation, calling forth the light in the name of the Christ, in the name of the I Am presence. When the call is made, the light floods forth and is anchored. But unless the calls are made daily, the flame, which is the frequency of perfection, seeks its own level and returns to the plane of spirit. That is why daily invocation is necessary, to continue to bring that perfection and hold it at a level that is actually unnatural to its internal force field, but only unnatural until the earth itself is assumed into the perfect state of the ascension. The seven mighty Elohim are the original builders of form who created the planet in response to the mandates of the Godhead. The seven retreats on the earth of these seven spirits of God are keys to the very existence and life of the planet itself. The flames anchored there are most powerful, and many of their activities are known only to ascended masters. Even the revelation of the name of the Elohim is a dispensation, because there is so much power even in the pronouncement of these names. Each letter is the release of Fohatic energy from the causal body of the Elohim. From my understanding, the Elohim are higher level beings. So I'm still learning, and I share what I feel called to. And at the end, if I remember, I will read about going to the retreats at night, which was the next chapter. I didn't expect to flip to, but I also didn't expect to see the video this morning about my grandma's passing on Easter weekend last year, which this year we did the video about Jesus and the Ascension on Good Friday. So if you haven't seen that video, then definitely check it out. Or even better yet, the week before we did Jesus and who was Jesus and why did his story matter? Because I am trying to figure it out for my own self, because I've never been religious and was averse to it because my beloved grandpa said it didn't make sense, and I grew up with an atheist as one of the smartest men that I respected, that if he didn't believe it, then why should I have to put my energy into it, I figured. And what I didn't understand was the difference between religion and faith. And I've come to that understanding, and he cannot yet separate them. But I feel like, and what I told my grandma when she was still here, I would say, Grandma, I'm here to create the new religion that is no religion. And she just shook her head, but she knew that I wasn't wrong in terms of what I felt called to do. I just didn't specifically need to be the one to create it anew. Because from an Akashic Records reading perspective, my soul group is Syrian when I done mine. And if that's something you're interested in too, it is a paid service, but it is something that I would be glad to discuss. And Syrians are not about creating from scratch, which was what I was trying to do. And it took 4 years for me to get to the place of being ready to finally let the world see all that my journey took me through in order to be here ready to do what I'm here to do. And yet, Syrians are about making the wheel smoother, faster, rounder, not starting the wheel from scratch. And so I was working against my original divine blueprint, and that was torturous. And you may be too. And most of us are, especially when we have jobs that have no meaning, that do not fuel our heart. And even worse, if you hate what you do and how you spend your time. Culturally, we, especially Canadians, have been encouraged to overspend because they want our country. Black magic, as I always say, only works if they tell us what they're planning to do with us, to us. And then when they do, and we say, What? They say, We warned you. You just laughed because we thought we were kidding, because we sent the best jokers in the house to tell us the truth. It's just maddening. Many of the paid actors, musicians, celebrities, footballers, the ones that get paid exceptional money to be the modern day gladiators on the stage now, or screen instead. Many sold out in order to get where they got. And now they have doubt because they understand what's truly on the line, which was their soul. And so, with that, we go to the chapter on recovering a sense of self protection, which is a longer chapter. So, I look forward to sharing it with you. This week, we explore the perils that can ambush us on our creative path. Because creativity is a spiritual issue, many of the perils are spiritual perils. In the essays, tasks, and exercises of this week, we search out the toxic patterns we cling to that block our creative flow. Dangers of the trail. Creativity is God energy flowing through us, shaped by us, like light flowing through a crystal prism. When we are clear about who we are and what we are doing, the energy flows freely and we experience no strain. When we resist what that energy might show us or where it might take us, we often experience a shaky, out of control feeling. We want to shut down the flow and regain our sense of control. We slam on the psychic brakes. Every creative person has myriad ways to block creativity. Each of us favors one or two ways particularly toxic to us because they block us so effectively. For some people, food is a creativity issue. Eating sugar or fats or certain carbohydrates may leave them feeling dulled, hungover, unable to focus, blurry. They use food to block energy and change. As the shaky feeling comes over them, that they are going too fast and God knows where, that they are about to fly apart, these people reach for food. A big bowl of ice cream, an evening of junk food, and their system clogs. What was I thinking? Oh, never mind. For some people, alcohol is the favored block. For others, drugs. For many, work is the block of choice. Busy, 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 they grab for tasks to numb themselves with. They can't take a half hour's walk. What a waste of time. Must-dos and multiple projects are drawn to them like flies to a soda can in the sun. They go buzz, 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 swat, as they brush aside the stray thought that was the breakthrough insight. For others, an obsession with painful love places creative choice outside their hands. Reaching for the painful thought, they become instant victims rather than feel their own considerable power. If only he or she would just love me. Oh, I have a story on that. From Harrison Lake, remind me to tell you if you're interested. This obsessive thought drowns out the little voice that suggests rearranging the living room, taking a pottery class, trying a new top on that story that's stymied. Trying a new top on that story that's stymied. The minute a creative thought raises its head, it is lopped off by the obsession, which blocks fear and prevents risk. Going out dancing, redoing the whole play with an inner city theme, if only he or she would love me. So much for the West Side Story. Sex is the great block for many, as mesmerizing, titillating, hypnotic interest slides novel erotic possibilities in front of the real novel. The new sex objects becomes the focus for creative approaches. Now, note carefully that food, work, and sex are all good things in themselves. It is the abuse of them that makes them creativity issues. Knowing yourself as an artist means acknowledging which of these you abuse when you want to block yourself. If creativity is like a burst of the universe's breath through the straw that is each of us, we pinch that straw whenever we pick up one of our blocks. We shut down our flow and we do it on purpose. We begin to sense our real potential and the wide range of possibilities open to us. That scares us. So we all reach for blocks to slow our growth. If we're honest with ourselves, we all know which blocks are the toxic ones for us. Clue: this is the block we defend as our right. Line up with the possibilities. Line up the possibilities. Which one makes you angry to even think about giving up? That explosive one is the one that has caused you the most derailment. Examine it. When asked to name our poison, most of us can. Has food sabotaged us? Has workaholism sabotaged us? Has sex or love obsession blocked our creativity? Mix and match is a common recipe for using blocks. Use one, add another, mix in a third, wear yourself out. The object of all this blocking is to alleviate fear. We turn to our drug of choice to block our creativity whenever we experience the anxiety of our inner emptiness. It is always fear, often disguised, but always there, that leads us into grabbing for a block. Usually we experience the block to Usually we experience the choice to block as a coincidence. She happened to call. I felt hungry and there was some ice cream. He dropped by with some killer dope. The choice to block always works in the short run and fails in the long run. The choice to block is a creative U-turn. We turn back on ourselves. Like water forced to a standstill, we turn stagnant. The self honesty lurking in us all always knows when we choose against our better good. It marks a little jot on our spiritual blackboard. Did it again. It takes grace and courage to admit and surrender our blocking devices. Who wants to? Not while they're still working. Of course, long after they have stopped working, we hope against hope that this time they'll work again. Blocking is essentially an issue of faith. Rather than trust our intuition, our talent, our skill, our desire, we fear where our Creator is taking us with this creativity. Rather than paint, dance, write, audition, and see where it takes us, we pick up a block. Blocked, we know who and what we are, unhappy people. Unblocked, we may become unblocked, we may be something more. Unblocked, we may be something much more threatening, happy. For most of us, happy is terrifying, unfamiliar, out of control, too risky. Is it any wonder we take temporary U turns? As we become aware of our blocking devices food, busyness, alcohol, sex, other drugs we can feel our U turns as we make them. The blocks will no longer work effectively. Over time, we will try, perhaps slowly at first and erratically, to ride out the anxiety and see where we emerge. Anxiety is fuel. We can use it to write with, paint with, work with. Feel anxious. Try using anxiety. Feel, I just did it. I didn't block. I used the anxiety and moved ahead. Oh my God, I'm excited. Workaholism. Saying no can be the ultimate self care. Claudia Black. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. Seldom, often, never. I set out to do one job and start on 3 more at the same time. Seldom, often, never. I work in the evenings during family time. Seldom, often, never. I allow calls to interrupt and lengthen my workday. Seldom, often, never. I prioritize my day to include an hour of creative work, play. Seldom, often, never. I place my creative dreams before my work. Seldom, often, never. I fall in with others' plans and fill my free time with their agendas. Seldom, often, never. I allow myself downtime to do nothing. Seldom, often, never. I use the word deadline to describe and rationalize my workload. Seldom, often, never. Going somewhere, even to dinner with a notebook or my work numbers, is something I do. Seldom, often, never. In order to recover our creativity, we must learn to see workaholism work until we look at the hours we put in. We may think our work is normal until we compare it with a normal 40-hour week. One way to achieve clarity about our time expenditures is to keep a daily checklist and record of our time spent. Even an hour of creative work or play can go a long way toward offsetting the sense of workaholic desperation that keeps our dreams at bay. Because workaholism is a process addiction, an addiction to a behavior rather than a substance, it's difficult to tell when we are indulging in it. An alcoholic gets sober by abstaining from alcohol. A workaholic gets sober by abstaining from overwork. A trick is to define overwork, and this is where we often lie to ourselves, bargaining to hold on to those abusive behaviors that still serves us. In order to guard against rationalization, it is very useful to set a bottom line. Each person's bottom line is different, but should specifically mention those behaviors known as each person's bottom line is different, but should specifically mention those behaviors known to be off limits. These specific behaviors make for more immediate recovery than a vague, generic resolve to do better. If you have no time, you need to make some room. It is more likely, however, that you have the time and are misspending it. Your time log will help you find those areas where you need to create boundaries. Boundary is another way to say bottom line. Bottom line, I will not. That is your boundary. See setting a bottom line in this week's list of tasks. As with creative U-turns, recovery from workaholism may require that we enlist the help of our friends. Tell them what you are trying to accomplish. Ask them to remind you gently when you have strayed off your self-care course. This will backfire if you enlist the help of people who are active workaholics themselves, or who are so controlling that they will over-control you. Bear in mind, however, that this is your problem. No one can police you into recovery. But in some parts of the country, Workaholics Anonymous meetings are springing up, and these may help you enormously. One very simple but effective way to check your own recovery process is to post a sign in your work area. Also post a sign wherever you will read it, one on the bathroom mirror and one on the refrigerator, one on the nightstand, one in the car. The sign reads, "Workaholism is a block, not a building block." The life which is not examined is not worth living. Plato. When we are really honest with ourselves, we must admit our lives are all that really belong to us. So it is how we use our lives that determines the kind of men we are. Cesar Chavez. Drought. In any creative life, there are dry seasons. These droughts appear from nowhere and stretch the horizon like a Death Valley vista. Life loses its sweetness. Our work feels mechanical, empty, forced. We feel we have nothing to say, and we are tempted to say nothing. These are the times when the morning pages are most difficult and most valuable. During a drought, the mere act of showing up on the page, like the act of walking through a trackless desert, requires one footfall after another to no apparent point. Doubts sidle up to us like sidewinders. What's the use, they hiss, or what do you expect? Droughts tell us that they will last forever, and we will not. A haunting anticipation of our own death, approaching long before we're ready for it, long before we've done anything of value, shimmers ahead of us like a ghastly mirage. What do you do? What do we do? We stumble on. How do we do what we do? We stay on the morning pages. This is not a rule for writers only. The pages have nothing to do with writing, although they may facilitate it as they do all art forms. For all creative beings, the morning pages are the lifeline, the trail we explore and the trail home to ourselves. During a drought, the morning pages seem both painful and foolish. They seem like empty gestures, like making breakfast for the lover we know is leaving us anyhow. Hoping against hope that we will someday be creative again, we go through the motions. Our consciousness is parched. We cannot feel so much as a trickle of grace. During a drought, during a doubt, we just accurately wrote with a slip of the finger, we are fighting with God. We have lost faith in the great creator and in our creative selves. We have some bone to pick, and bones to pick are everywhere. This is the desert of the heart. Looking for a hopeful sign, all we see are the hulking remains of dreams that died along the path. And yet we write our morning pages because we must. During a drought, emotions are dried up. Like water, they may exist somewhere underneath, but we have no access to them. A drought is a tearless time of grief. We are between dreams. Too listless to even know our losses, we put one page after another, more from habit than hope. And yet we write our morning pages because we must. Droughts are terrible. Droughts hurt. Droughts are long, airless seasons of doubt that make us grow, give us compassion, and blossom as unexpectedly as the desert with sudden flowers. I can relate from a year ago. a few months more than a year ago, I hit the biggest drought that I have went through in my life. Droughts do end. Droughts end because we have kept writing our pages. They end because we have not collapsed to the floor of our despair and refused to move. We have doubted, yes, but we have stumbled on. In a creative life, droughts are a necessity. The time in the desert brings us clarity and charity. When you are in a drought, know that this is to a purpose and keep writing morning pages. To write is to write things. Sooner or later, always later than we like, our pages will bring new rights. Our pages will bring things right. A path will emerge, an insight will be a landmark that shows the way out of the wilderness. Dancer, sculptor, actor, painter, playwright, poet, performance artist, potter, artists all, the morning pages are both our wilderness and our trail. Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. Jalal Uddin Rumi. Truly, it is in the darkness that one finds the light. So when we are in sorrow, then this light is nearest to all of us. Meister Eckhart. The unconscious wants truth. It ceases to speak to those who want something else more than truth. Adrian Rich. Habits. Coffee. I do love it. Fame. Fame encourages us to believe that if it hasn't happened yet, it won't happen. Of course, it is fame. Fame is not the same as success. And in our true souls, we know that. We know and have felt success at the end of a good day's work. But fame, it is addictive, and it always leaves us hungry. Fame is a spiritual drug. It is often a byproduct of our artistic work, but like nuclear waste, it can be a very dangerous byproduct. Fame, the desire to attain, the desire to hold on to it, can produce the how am I doing syndrome. This question is not, is the work going well? This question is, how does it look to them? The point of the work is the work. Fame interferes with that perception. Instead of being about acting, it becomes about being a famous actor. Instead of writing being about writing, it becomes about being recognized, not just published. We all like credit where credit is due. As artists, we don't always get it, yet focusing on fame, on whether we are getting enough, creates a continual feeling of lack. There is never enough of the fame drug. Wanting more will always snap at our heels, discredit our accomplishments, erode our joy of another's accomplishment. To test this, read any of the many fan magazines, People, for instance, to see if afterward your life somehow feels more shabby, less worthwhile. This is the fame drug at work. Remember, treating yourself like a precious object will make you strong. When you have been toxified by the fame drug, you need to detox by coddling yourself. What's in order here is a great deal of gentleness and some behavior that makes you like yourself. Sending postcards is a great trick. Mail one to yourself that says you are doing great. It is very nice to get fan letters from ourselves. In the long run, fan letters from ourselves and our creative self are what we are really after. Fame is really a shortcut for self-approval. Try approving of yourself just as you are and spoiling yourself rotten like small kids' pleasures. With small kids' pleasures. What we are really scared of is that without fame, we won't be loved as artists or as people. The solution to this fear is concrete, small, loving actions. We must actively, consciously, consistently, and creatively nurture our artist selves. When the fame drug hits, go to your easel, your typewriter, your camera or clay. Pick up the tools of your work and begin to do just a little creative play. Soon, very soon, the fame drug should start to lessen its hold. The only cure for the fame drug is creative endeavor. Only when we are being joyfully creative can we release the obsession with others and how they are doing. Real learning comes about when the competitive spirit has ceased. J. Krishnamurti. Truly, it is in the darkness that one finds the light, so when we are in sorrow, then this light is nearest of all of us. Master Eckhart. I guess that one was needed to be read again. Competition. You pick up a magazine or even your alumni news, and somebody you know, has gone further, faster toward your dream. Instead of saying, that proves it can be done, your fear will say, he or she will succeed instead of me. Competition is another spiritual drug. When we focus on competition, we poison our own well, impede our own progress. When we are oogling the accomplishments of others, we take our eye away from our own through line. We ask ourselves the wrong questions, and those wrong questions give us the wrong answers. Why do I have such rotten luck? Why did he get his movie article play out before I got mine out? Is it because of sexism? What's the use? What do I have to offer? We often ask these questions as we try to talk ourselves out of creating. Questions like these allow us to ignore more useful questions. Did I work on my play today? Did I make the deadline to mail it off before where it needed to go? Have I done any networking on its behalf? These are the real questions, and focusing on them can be hard for us. No wonder it is tempting to take the first emotional drink instead. No wonder so many of us read People magazine or the New York Times book review or Lears or Mirabella or Esquire and use them to wallow in a lot of unhealthy envy. We make excuses for our avoidance, excuses focused on others. Somebody else has probably said it, done it, thought it, and better. Besides, they had connections, a rich father, they belonged to a sought-after minority, they slept their way to the top. Competition lies at the root of much creative blockage. As artists, we must go within. We must attend to what is our inner guidance is nudging us toward. We must attend to what it is our inner guidance is nudging us toward. We cannot afford to worry about what is in or out. If it is too early or late for a piece of work, its time will come again. As artists, we cannot afford to think about who is getting ahead of us and how they don't deserve it. The desire to be better than can choke off the simple desire to be. As artists, we cannot afford this thinking. It leads us away from our own voices and choices and into a defensive game that centers outside of ourselves and our sphere of influence. It asks us to define our own creativity in terms of someone else's. This compare and contrast school of thinking may have its place for critics, but not for artists in the act of creation. Let the critics spot trends. Let reviewers concern themselves with what is in and what is out. Let us concern ourselves first and foremost with what it is within us that is struggling to be born. When we compete with others, when we focus our creative concerns on the marketplace, we are really jostling with other artists in a creative foot race. This is the sprint mentality. Looking for the short-term win, ignoring the long-term gain, we short-circuit the possibility of a creative life led by our own lights, not the Klieg lights of fashion. Whenever you are angered about someone else beating you out, remember this. The foot race mentality is always the ego's demand to be not just good, but also first and best. It is the ego's demand that our work be totally original, as if such a thing were possible. All work is influenced by other work. All people are influenced by other people. No man is an island, and no piece of art is a continent unto itself. When we respond to art, we are responding to its resonance in terms of our own experience. We seldom see anew in the sense of finding something utterly unfamiliar. Instead, we see an old in a new light. If the demand to be original still troubles you, remember this. Each of us is our own country, an interesting place to visit. It is the accurate mapping out of our own creative interests that invites the term original. We are the origin of our art, its homeland. Viewed this way, originality is the process of remaining true to ourselves. The spirit of competition, as opposed to the spirit of creation, often urges us to quickly winnow out whatever doesn't seem like a winning idea. This can be very dangerous. It can interfere with our ability to carry a project to term. A competitive focus encourages snap judgments. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Does this project deserve to live? No, our ego will say, if it is looking for the fail-safe, surefire project that is a winner at a glance and for good. Many hits are sure things only in retrospect. Until we know better, we call a great many creative swans ugly ducklings. This is an indignity we offer our brain children as they rear their heads in our consciousness. We judge them like beauty pageant contestants. In a glance, we may cut them down. We forget that not all babies are born beautiful, and so we abort the lives of awkward or unseemly projects that may be our finest work, our best creative ugly ducklings. An act of art needs time to mature. Judged early, it may be judged incorrectly. Never ever judge a fledgling piece of work too quickly. Be willing to paint or write badly while your ego yelps resistance. Your bad writing may be the syntactical breakdown necessary for a shift in your style. Your lousy painting may be pointing you in a new direction. Art needs time to incubate, to sprawl a little, to be ungainly and misshapen and finally emerge as itself. The ego hates this fact. The ego wants instant gratification and the addictive hit of an acknowledged win. The need to win now is a need to win approval from others. As an antidote, we must learn to approve of ourselves. Showing up for the work is the win that matters. He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened. Lao Tzu. I will tell you what I have learned myself. For me, a long 5 or 6 mile walk helps, and one must go alone and every day. Brenda Euland. Only when he no longer knows what he is doing does the painter do good things. Edgar Degas. Tasks. The Deadlies. Take a piece of paper and cut 7 strips from it. On each strip, write one of the following words: alcohol, drugs, sex, work, money, food, family, friends. Fold these strips of paper and place them in an envelope. We call these folded slips the Deadlies. You'll see why in a minute. Now draw one of the Deadlies from the envelope and write 5 ways in which it has had a negative impact. You will do this 7 times. Each slip of paper is 7 possible breakthrough. If the answer is how often, with me on social, I will no longer place my work commitments. No more canceling piano lessons or drawing class because of a sudden new deadline from my boss, the workaholic. I will love making to do for work. I will no longer accept business calls at home after 6. Cherishing. List 5 small victories. List 3 nurturing actions you took for your artist. List 3 actions you could take to comfort your artist. Make 3 nice promises to yourself. Keep them. Do 1 lovely thing for yourself each day this week. Check in. How many days this week did you do your morning pages? Has reading your pages changed your writing? Are you still allowing yourself to write freely? Did you do your artist date this week? Let yourself do an extra one. What did you do? How did it feel? Did you experience any synchronicity this week? What was it? And lastly, were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Describe them. Next week, we will be reading the chapter on autonomy. And so I look forward to sharing that experience with you. And did want to read out the next piece that I had flipped to earlier in the Masters and their retreats about traveling to the retreats. So I did say I would. And then we'll pull a divine guidance card. You can travel to the etheric retreats while your body sleeps at night. You can escape your physical body and leave the bounds of Earth, traveling with or without consciousness. And there are things you can do to facilitate this journey. It is a good idea to avoid heavy foods in the few hours before sleep so that the functions of the body can be at rest and the soul more easily ascend to the higher octaves. It is also best to avoid violent or negative movies or television shows in the hours before sleep. These can magnetize the soul to lower levels of consciousness instead of the highest levels of the etheric plane. A period of spiritual attunement before sleep, perhaps reading the words of the masters, helps attune your consciousness with the intended destination. Where we are in consciousness before we sleep will often determine where we go. And most important is to make the call. Simply ask to be taken by Archangel Michael to the retreat nearest you or the retreat of your choice. Here is a short prayer you can give before you go to sleep to ask to be taken to the retreats. You can use it, for example, to attend the 2-week training sessions with the Chohans of the Rays. Make this call nightly and see how the angels will swiftly take you, clothed in your finer bodies, to the Ascended Masters' classrooms to learn important soul lessons. Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Mighty I am presence and holy Christ self, I call to Archangel Michael and his legions of blue lightning angels to protect and transport my soul, clothed in her finer bodies, to the retreat of the Ascended Master at this night. Escort me, instruct me, guide and protect me as I work to set free all life on earth. I ask this be done in accordance with the holy will of God. The Royal Teton Retreat is the most important retreat for newcomers, and a very good place to start your conscious experiments with journeying to the retreats. Some have asked what happens if they live in a different time zone and they are awake while others are asleep and visiting the retreats. Will they miss their classes? The answer is no. The retreats operate 24 hours a day in another dimension of time and space. You may wish to keep a notebook by your bed to write down impressions or ideas that come to you on waking. A sense of self-worth is the next piece in this that I am going to also read. The masters have told us that sometimes the only barrier to our attending the retreats is a lack of self-worth. Like the prodigal son, we have been away so long that we hesitate at the threshold. Will I still be welcome after all this time? Remember that God dwells in you, and God in you is worthy to ascend and God in you is worthy to attend the retreats of light. The Master Moira addresses the subject and invites you to the retreat of goodwill at Darjeeling. I say to you again, the welcome mat is out. Here in Darjeeling, we await the coming of those chelas who will recognize their spiritual prerogative, their right, if they choose to make themselves ready, to cast aside those human deep feelings and momentums of the past, and in the wonder of regeneration to generate within themselves the tender feelings of love and compassion for the will of God, beholding in that will the same embodied thought that beloved Jesus beheld. Not my will, O mighty I am presence, but thine be done. In this wondrous concept embraced, men shall find their freedom, standing apart, standing backward, and beholding it as a mere vision, as a standing apart, standing backward, and beholding it as a mere vision, as a possibility at some distant time, as a myth, as a hallucinatory grail that does not exist. Men shall not find it, recognizing that it is as close as hands and feet and heart beat. Men shall find it within themselves, and discovering it there, shall discover it everywhere. How then shall Darjeeling be closed against them? How shall any retreat of the Ascended Masters be closed against them? Those worthy to come to one are worthy to come to all. Those worthy to come to none are worthy to come to none. Unworthiness, beloved ones, is the only human concept that is not willing to recognize in God the freeing power whereby they may enter into the very heart of each ascended master retreat and draw from those retreats the fullness of that immortal love that shall lead them progressively forward day after day to that place upon the path where the will of God can be known, loved, adored, and cherished. And then that will cherish them. As the will of God cherishes you in response to your call, you shall find yourself vested from day to day with more of the radiance of the brothers of the Diamond Heart. That's interesting. There's a whole section on the retreats, which is cool too. So that was something I didn't expect to read you today, but I am glad that we did. And then I'm just going to ask for a message for the week, up to 3 cards. Well, that's the first one. And a second, will there be any others? No, we got 11 on the bottom. Ooh, all right. So which card came out first is a 2. Beautiful. All right, so number 2 popped right out, making itself known immediately. Illuminate. And I hold this up right at 1 hour into the YouTube video, so that's interesting. You are a shining star. In truth, you were born to illuminate the world with your light. The time has come to get out of your own way and allow yourself to be all of who you are meant to be. Remember, it is only the thoughts in your mind that hold you back, and it takes a lot more energy to hold yourself closed than it does to let yourself flow open. This card is asking you to allow yourself to take up space, to open yourself up and illuminate this world. And what I would love for you to realize is that we just read about self-worth, and that being what keeps us out of our divine birthright of the retreats and what we can learn while we sleep. So please do understand you are that star who is here to bless this world, and you have a purpose far beyond what you are aware of. 24. I haven't ever got this card before. It's the Divine Feminine. This card asks you to begin operating more from a feminine flow of energy, whether you are male or female. It asks that you allow your power to flow from within instead of using force. No wonder I haven't got this before. Be mindful of using a gentle approach to people and situations. The role of nurturer and healer is important for you, and these gifts will blossom when you allow them to naturally emanate from you. Focus on your relationships with the people you interact with. You will find that more will be accomplished while creating peace and harmony for all involved. And 11 being at the bottom means it is the foundation, which, beautifully enough, is infinite possibilities. Your daydreams are the creation of your deepest desires and wishes. While they do hold guidance as to what you are wanting and needing in your path, they also carry a creative force of manifestation. The universe is asking you to allow yourself to dream, to allow the idea that the impossible can be possible. Your greatest wishes in life are a big key to your path, and the entire universe is working with you right now to bring those dreams to fruition. The possibilities of what can be manifested are infinite. And that is super exciting, considering when I went over the edge in 2019 and I came aware of the fact that I feel like I'm here to help bring peace to humanity and harmonizing. Not because I was ready then, but just because I tuned in and I got it. I had an enlightenment experience of unintegrated energies because I'd pierced through the veils unnaturally and then had to go through the lessons that I had skipped backwards. So spiritual bypassing is not really in your best interest, but as someone that has typically learned the hard way, evidently that was just the way that it needed to be for me. But in that experience of understanding, that peace is what's required, my idea was to create a round table where the best leaders could bring forward their traditions and we could find the best and refine them down to the virtues in order to see that it's all a shared foundation. And when we actually understand that, wow, right? I wanted to use all of the best that existed in order to create a tradition together that would help us embrace the golden age. And that dream is still alive and well in me, and maybe you too, who are listening to this when you do understand you're part of that. So I do hope that you understand this card that I just flipped to is about receiving. Energetically, you are beginning to draw in the loving people you need to help you move forward on your path and in your life. These people offer you both emotional and spiritual support so that you may see and feel your own value in this world. Remember, you have just as much of a positive effect in their lives as they do in yours. While what you have to give is very important, it's just as important that you allow yourself to receive too. In doing so, you are creating a beautiful energy exchange of growth and support for all. So, you and I are reflections to one another. So, I do thank you for sharing this time with me and to know that we're connected because we are stronger together and we found each other in this life because we were meant to, and we are valuable for one another to be able to be part of that round table. The knights of the Knights of Templar, the knights around King Arthur's round table, in an expanded version that includes the whole of the globe and what is possible, can be how we create the now moment, which is the new orderly world, instead of the new world order that would be implemented if we forgot and let our low self worth that we were taught be the veil of evil, the energy veil that kept us separate from the truth of who and whose we truly are. So, thank you for tuning in today. I hope you have a great week ahead. Look forward to sharing the next chapter with you on Sunday next week and Thursday night if you are wanting in on the next part of Saint Germain on Alchemy. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time as usual, and I look forward to sharing that experience with you. Have a great day. Toodaloo. I said to YouTube.